If the name were Trump instead of Emhoff, it would be all over the news. Daily Mail, echoed by the New York Post, has a story. Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's husband, accused of striking a woman he was on a date with at the Cannes Film Festival back in 2012. They had been drinking, and he didn't like how she talked to the valet. He smacked her. She smacked him back.
Legacy media has painted Doug Emhoff as a champion for women and the new face of masculinity.
Has being second gentleman changed your own view of perceived gender roles or what it means to be a man?
There's too much of toxicity, masculine toxicity out there, and we've kind of confused what it means to be a man.
An interesting part of how people have talked about your role here is how your role has reshaped the perception of masculinity. Do you think that's part of the role you might play as first gentleman?
To me, it's the right thing to do. You know, support women. Women should not have less rights and be treated differently.
And if you become first gentleman, what would that say about, defining the gender role and about masculinity?
A man supporting a woman and lifting up a woman, it's the right thing to do. We lift up women. We lift up all of society.
Newly published allegations about Doug's past now threaten to tarnish his feminist brand. Around a month ago, the Daily Mail revealed that Emhoff got the nanny pregnant when he was married to his first wife, paying the nanny $80,000 and having her sign an NDA. Now the same reporter who broke the nanny story is out with an even more explosive piece. In 2012, Doug allegedly slapped his girlfriend in the face. This is according to 3 anonymous sources. The sources, who claim to be friends of the victim, say Doug smacked his girlfriend in the face at the Cannes Film Festival in France while waiting in line for the valet. The Daily Mail has identified the woman, but isn't using her name, and she'll be called Jane for the purpose of this report. Jane's friends claim Doug thought Jane was flirting with the valet. Quote, she put her hand on the valet's shoulder, and as she was talking to him, Doug comes up. She said he turned her around by her right shoulder, and she was completely caught off guard. He hauled up and slapped her so hard, she spun around. She said she was in utter shock. These sources provided the Daily Mail with evidence that the trip to the south of France did happen, including an itinerary and emails. Jesse Waters Primetimes discovered red carpet footage that shows Doug at the 2012 film festival. You can see him right there in the background. Jane is a corporate attorney on the East Coast, and the sources who spoke to the Daily Mail demanded to remain anonymous because they feared retaliation. One of the sources, according to the Daily Mail, is a top businessman, the other a New York attorney, and the third a top company executive.
CNN exclusively obtained a statement from Doug Emhoff about that affair. Of course, this was after alleged details of that relationship were published by a British tabloid. And in his statement, he says, quote, during my first marriage, Kirsten and I went through some tough times on account of my actions. I took responsibility, and in the years since, we worked through things as a family and have come out stronger on the other side. Now, that British tabloid, the Daily Mail, had reported that Emhoff had a relationship with his then young daughter's teacher, which resulted in the end of his first marriage. Now, 4 years ago, sources tell us this came up in the vetting process for President Biden. He was searching for his running mate and considering Vice President Kamala Harris. We're also told that this relationship ended years before he started dating his now wife, the Vice President Kamala Harris, and that he was also told her about it before they got married.
There have been 2 stories broken by the Daily Mail about Doug Emhoff now, one of which he was forced to admit, involving him cheating on his first wife with his child's nanny and getting her pregnant. And now, thanks to report number 2, we finally learned, we believe, what happened to that baby. And we've also learned about a new allegation that he physically abused a girlfriend, a reportedly successful, powerful, beautiful attorney who he was dating 2 years prior to meeting Kamala Harris. And now he's, again, sort of issued a denial. It is the lamest denial I've seen from a public figure involved in a scandal in quite some time. And most of the corporate media is completely ignoring the story. We are not going to do that here.
All right, so let's talk about this real quick. allegedly, Kamala Harris's husband slapped a woman in 2012, I believe, slapped her so hard she spun around like a ballerina. Now, this is an accusation. This is alleged. Think about this for a minute. It's alleged. And why is the media not talking about it? Only The Hill and New York Post are even mentioning this. If this was Donald Trump, Brett Kavanaugh, any Republican in the history of this country, they would just be running this to no end.
Question is, how long have you been working on this story? How soon or how recent was it that you received word of these allegations that are being leveled against the potential first man?
So I've been working on investigations into Doug Emhoff for a little while. I mean, you can see, so I work for the US website dailymail.com, and we published in August a story about Doug having an affair with his daughter's teacher, grade school teacher at the time, her nanny. So I've been investigating him for a while. This story I've also been working on for several weeks. So, this was a thorough investigation, something that I put a lot of work into.
If it were Trump or anyone related to him, it would be on every TV show that is on right now. And that's why I think in the interest of fairness, you should look at it.
I don't blame you for bringing up the story because in fairness to Donald Trump, which is not something you hear me or most people say all the time, it is absolutely true. If this were him, it would be all over the place. It would be printed. It would be publicized everywhere. We also have to take into account 2018 when then Senator Kamala Harris, obviously, when the whole Brett Kavanaugh situation, not as far back as 2018, but when Brett Kavanaugh was obviously running for the Supreme Court, I think it was around that time, actually. And I remember her wearing all black and saying she was wearing all black. And I wore black today in support of all survivors of sexual assault or abuse. And it was a hashtag, believe survivors, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you do something like that, it's going to be politicized. And if people believe you've politicized it, the second they get an opportunity to politicize something against you or unfavorable to you, they are going to pounce on that.